How's it going, everyone? It's Saudi from World Service 1000. Today is January 9th, 2021, and today we're going to take a look at the southern Midwest snowstorm that's going to bring a lot of snow in Texas that could bring up to a foot of snow in localized areas. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So let's begin by first taking a look at the Futurecast interactive radar, which as you could see, there's a pretty large swath of snow extending from pretty much the middle of Texas all the way as far west as New Mexico. And if we zoom out, you see that this is pretty much at this point the only major weather event that's going to be going on in the United States, which might be good news for a lot of people, but bad news for those who might want to see snow. However, Texas will get plenty of that going into tomorrow, Sunday morning, and into Sunday afternoon, because this Futurecast radar puts this storm right around here, right? It puts a low pressure right around southern Texas, right around the Mexico and United States border at 9 a.m. January 10th. And you see that there's a large swath of snow. And if so, this should be the worst for a lot of West Texas in the morning time. And then come noontime, you see that snow begins to extend at Dallas's doorstep at this point, and it's affecting a lot more cities in and around midwestern Texas. And you see that the snow begins to expand. And what's interesting is that as we move forward in the Futurecast map, I'm beginning to notice a little bit more thunderstorm activity and a little bit more convection on the southern side, and that could create very high snowfall rates, since that rain is obviously going to change over to snow, because there's going to be just enough cold air to change a lot of this rain and thunderstorm activity into snow. And a lot of places where you typically wouldn't see snow at all during the winter might get a lot of snowfall, and like I said, up to a foot of snow and very high snowfall rates. And then by the afternoon on Sunday, you see that there's a lot of snow extending just south of Dallas, and you see throughout middle Texas is dealing with high snowfall rates, especially right around the rain snow line. And what's interesting is that there's going to be a little bit of rain on the northern side of this storm, as it seems like this low pressure will be strong enough to the point. Well, the eastern half of this storm is going to be just warm enough to make the eastern half of this storm more um more of a rain event. And however, there's going to be just enough of a easterly wind that's going to bring a little bit of that warm air to the northern portion of this storm rather than the southern portion. So there is that possibility that although you might see snow on the southern side of this storm, you might see rain or a little bit of mixing on the northern side, because like I said, there's going to be a little bit of an easterly wind that's going to bring a lot of that warmer southeast air into the northern portion of this storm. And since low pressures obviously have winds that move counterclockwise, the winds on the northern side will move easterly, so that warm air will penetrate easterly to change some of that snow into rain on the northern side, which is quite interesting and not something you typically see every day. And then headed into nighttime, you see that snow extends throughout the just north of Houston, right around middle Texas, and the snowfall rates are still high, as I would assume right around this area, right around central Texas, will experience the worst of this storm, where you could see just a lot of snow from this. However, going into early Monday, that snow continues to expand into Louisiana and Arkansas, and it begins to head out of Texas. And this should be completely out of Texas, I would say, right around very early on Monday, right as the sun is rising, right around 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 a.m. Central Time. And you might see snow in northern Louisiana, so keep that in mind as well. And temperatures will obviously be far below average, since we're seeing a big dip in the jet stream behind this storm. And the snow, we could see a little bit of flurries in Mississippi. We definitely can't rule that out. However, by the time this low pressure is at Mississippi, there's going to be a ridge in the southeast that's just going to bring too much warm air for this storm to change a lot of that rain into snow. And so most of the snow should end right around Monday afternoon, pretty much all snow should end right around Monday night. Maybe some snow in the higher elevations of North Carolina, but for most of the southeast, this should mainly be a rain event, and the one that will be impacted the most will be Texas. And you might also keep in mind that, and you might be also be noticing that this storm is weak is yeah, sort of weakening, where you see lighter amounts of precipitation, where you don't see as much thunderstorm activity. You obviously don't see the heavy snowfall rates, and you might be asking why. Well, as the storm continues to move eastward, it's going to lose a lot of that unstable air, and the jet stream will sort of straighten out to keep the cold Arctic air further north and not really interact with this warm Gulf of Mexico water, or this warm humid air which is in the southeast, and that should weaken this storm because it won't have much unstable air to work with and to create a lot of convection. And the reason why this jet stream is expected to straighten out is due to this ridge. It's going to bring a lot of warm air further south, and also it's due to the fact that this low pressure system is going to move away from this ridge that's centered in the right around the Rocky Mountain ranges, and as it does so, the northerly winds on the western side of this storm will weaken considerably, which will prevent a lot of that Arctic air from the northern United States to move further southward and maybe interact with this warm Gulf of Mexico air. And as a result, it should weaken rapidly as it moves eastward and not be much of an effect to anyone, as this jet stream really straightens out by the time we hit the midweek, right around Tuesday to Wednesday. So outside of Texas, outside of New Mexico, fortunately, this should pretty much just die out as it continues its trek on eastward. However, let's take a look at my current snowfall forecast, and as you can see, I'm expecting a large area of 6 to 12 inches, and there's a lot of snow for a good portion of Texas because you typically don't see this much snow in the winter, as it's an occurrence that doesn't happen every day this far south. However, up to a foot I could see in localized areas in Texas. I still think the snowfall forecast will be in the lower end of the 6 to 12 inch range. Like, I would say 6 to 9 is more likely, but I just want to include the up to 12 inches because I know in localized areas there could be some areas that could get even a foot of snow. And when we're talking about 6 to 12 inches, the difference isn't really that big. It's still a major snowstorm either way, and I want to emphasize that with this my snowfall forecast of 6 to 12 inches, that this will still be a major snowstorm for a lot of you guys. So even if you don't get a foot, 6 inches is still a lot of snow that could cause so much havoc on the roads. So I want you guys to keep that in mind, especially just south of Texas and all throughout central Texas, where you could receive the worst of the snow. And then 3 to 6 inches, I would say, is possible, maybe right around Louisiana, where you could still see those high snowfall rates. And in Louisiana and in a lot of these places where you're predicted to get 3 to 6 inches, that snow is gonna, I want to emphasize that snow is gonna drop fast because there's gonna be a lot of thunderstorm activity on the southern side of this storm, and that rain and those thunderstorms will eventually make that change over to snow as it interacts with that cold air. So, and it's just gonna dump just very fast, and this snow is just gonna dump very fast thanks to the increased convection that's going to happen, especially during the later days of this storm, during the later hours of this storm. And you see that outside of that, a large area of 1 to 3 inches, I could see that happening maybe as far north as Colorado, eastern New Mexico, and you see that just south of the 3 to 6 inch category, you could see 1 to 3 inches of snow. And I wouldn't rule out Oklahoma or maybe Dallas experience of snow. And however, I would expect there would be more if there wasn't a lot of warm air that's going to filter in on the northern side that will create sort of a mixing. However, However, since that's expected to happen, I'm expecting a lot less snow in those areas. So this will be major, guys. Prepare if you're right around Texas, Louisiana, and portions of Arkansas, New Mexico, and even in states right around even Colorado and Kansas should at least keep my eye on this, because this will be a major snowstorm for a lot of you guys. We don't typically see snow this far south. Get the shovels ready, the salt ready, and make sure to make second plans or to change plans if you're expected to travel in Sunday, and do not travel unless it's in unless it's in an urgent emergency. So keep that in mind right around Texas, because this will be a major snowstorm for a lot of you guys. Taking a look at the GFS model, you see that the snow is expected to begin very soon. We're already seeing that snow begin right around New Mexico and Colorado, where we see an extending band of light snow for the most part. However, it's expected to the snowfall rates are expected to increase rapidly as soon as we get as soon as more unstable air it gets to an area where there's going to be more unstable air, where when it interacts with the warmer Gulf Stream water, that's when we're going to see a higher snowfall rate. So keep that in mind. And this should be the worst right around midwestern Texas, right around Sunday morning to Sunday afternoon. And it should be the worst for eastern Texas, I would say Sunday night and going into Monday morning in Louisiana and Mississippi. So this will definitely be major. However, outside of this snowstorm, it should be a fairly quiet week for most of the United States, as the jet stream is very straightened out for the most part, which doesn't really encourage any storm activity at all, since during the winter what really creates havoc or storm activity is strong instability, and it doesn't seem like we're going to see that over the next 5 days, because you see that jet stream after this snowstorm is going to straighten out to the point where this cold air isn't going to interact much with that warmer southern air to create any sort of storms that could potentially impact the United States. Obviously the primary threat to the United States when it comes to weather will be the Pacific Northwest, where you're again going to see a lot of Pacific Northwest low pressure systems come off the coast and bring a lot of rain in the big cities, and then snow in higher elevations, which include the Cascade Mountains and the Rocky Mountains. And we need to still keep in watch of these low pressure systems, because any one of these could bring a potentially major snowstorm threat in the future for a lot of the United States, such as the Midwest and the eastern half. So just because it's mainly going to impact the Pacific Northwest as of right now, we can't rule out that possibility that there's going to be a low pressure that moves through the United States and creates the next big storm. So I'm going to keep an eye on that as the computer model forecasts continue to change over the next several days, and we all need to keep in watch of that, because any of these low pressure systems that come off the Pacific Northwest could be the next big storm, especially since a lot of these low pressure systems coming off the Pacific Northwest are typically strong, and with just a little bit of instability, it could get even stronger to a point where it could be a massive and major snowstorm for a lot of the United States. However, for now, it should be mainly quiet for the United States. However, the one low pressure system I am watching that's coming off the Northwest Pacific, which is very late in my forecast time frame where I like to make forecasts, which is 5 days, is this low pressure system that's expected to come off the coast right around the 4-day mark, right around Wednesday to Thursday, midweek. And this low pressure system will move far north of the United States and Canada border, and with it's going to bring a decent amount of cold air behind it, because there's going to be just enough northwest winds that's induced by this ridge and this low pressure, to a point where we could see a lot of cold air behind this storm, and we could see a pretty major mid-latitude cyclone move through North America. While the low pressure is still well up north of the United States border to bring out any major snowstorm to the United States, it's still definitely something to watch, especially since right behind it, there's expected to be a big Arctic blast that that's expected to move through the United States, and this could encourage future snowstorms or low pressure systems to form, thanks to the increased instability that's induced by this Arctic blast moving through the United States. So we have to wait and see. A lot of uncertainty. Currently, snow is expected in the northern United States, but still a lot of days to go, and we need to keep in watch. A European also believes that we might see a low pressure move through the United States right around the 5 day mark, so we need to keep that in mind as well. And there is that possibility for snow in the United States, but the track is still very unknown. We just have to wait and see how the forecast models alter their forecast over the next several days. But anyways, guys, I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see more weather related content. And I hope you guys have a good day.